We'd like to welcome everyone to another episode of our podcast with New Life IVF Grace. And today we have a very special guest, one of our very beloved former patients and still patient, I would say, of the clinic, that we have known her for so many years. Her name is Jenny, and she's here with us in order to share her story and her experience and her struggles with IVF and everything that resulted in her presence in her life today. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Monica. It's wonderful to be here.
Thank you so much for accepting this invitation. The whole purpose of this discussion and generally this project is to raise awareness regarding IVF and to help families, build families, and help women out there and couples out there who are dealing with this huge problem and this huge struggle, and they're looking for hope and solutions.
Thank you. Such an honor, because I honestly think that, you know, my journey's been a long one, and I think had I had something like this, it would have just been so useful. So it's an absolute honor and a delight to be here.
Thank you so much. So we would like for you to make a small introductory of yourself, an introduction, so that we can learn about your background, your life, where you're originally from, etc.
Sure, no. So my name's Jenny. I am a mother of two now. I am married. My descent is of African descent. I've lived in the UK most of my life. I'm also a working mother. I've been quite focused on my career for much of, since I came out of university. So my life is full of, lots of various elements. I'm also quite an active member of my church. So lots and lots going on, in life generally. And
at some point, of course, you sort of started exploring the decision-making about creating a family.
Sure.
So can you walk us through that part of your life?
Yeah, sure. So I got married quite young, in my, mid-20s. And I'm now in my mid-40s. So, I've been married for quite a while. And I think that I always assumed, I think partly because I wasn't really consciously aware of many couples around me that had any problems with fertility. I just always assumed, you sleep with someone, you have a baby. I literally remember going on my first trip away with school when I was a teenager. My mum saying, "Don't kiss any boys, because if you kiss a boy, you're going to get pregnant." I was like, right, better not do that then. So
all mothers do that, don't they?
I think the slightly worrying thing is I don't think all children really believe it, but I was like, gosh, better not. So when I got married, it very much for me in my mind, it was a package. It's like, I'll give it a year or so, and then we'll start trying for children. And I also was, as much as I've been very, academic and career focused, I just thought my main passion is to be a mother. I think it was, but it was a massive kind of shock and confusion to me when after the first year of, we started trying, and then, month after month, I was thinking, right, let me do a test, and it just, didn't happen. So it was, I think, maybe for, couples or families where infertility is spoken about, and maybe they know one or two people who have gone through it, it isn't such a shock, because people, they may be more aware that, well, it might not happen. Whereas I very much went into the process. I'm pretty sure I even announced to my best friend when I decided to start trying, because I was thinking, gosh, I don't want to shock anybody when it happens,
Yeah.
So, and it took 12 years before I had my first. So, but I think the main thing for me that I kind of had to overcome in the early days is the confusion as to, okay, surely this just works, doesn't it? You have people falling pregnant accidentally all the time. So why is it such a problem to do what, to me, up until that point, I thought was just something that you'd naturally assume would happen.
And you were in your early 20s, correct?
Yes.
So it's amazing, because you're describing at the moment with very simple words what most women, even today, when we know that there's more information out there about infertility and when the journey may start and the struggles may start, etc., that still feel the same way, that, okay, it's something way far away from me or a possibility for me.
Absolutely.
And there's even a knowledge gap
Yes.
into the age groups that may actually be affected by
Absolutely,
infertility.
absolutely. And I think that's, if I'm honest, even as I've described it, maybe is not fully accurate, because it's not as though I didn't know that there were people who could be, but they were, it appeared to be so few and far between. And, you know, in the back of my mind, it's almost something I didn't want to think about, because of course, poor, you know, what a difficult circumstance that might be. I realized how common it was, not just for people who, you know, it takes a very long time to get it, but, you know, to assume that, you know, most people get pregnant within the first month or two, and those pregnancies all end up at term, is just a factually incorrect, you know, assumption. Now, having been through the process and understanding so much more about just how, you know, the entire process, I mean, it's such a miracle when anybody is born. It's the amount that an embryo has to go through to actually be here increases my appreciation for every human that I come across, because if you're here, you're meant to be here.
And when did you start seeking for help?
So I must admit, I was stubborn. This should just be working. It just needs to work. I shouldn't have to pay. I shouldn't have to go through that. It probably took about 4 or 5 years before I kind of went, you know, through the NHS route in the UK. Again, I think it's also because I genuinely didn't even know what path was available, like what were the options, etc., etc. So it took me a long time to kind of get over the hurdle and realize, well, actually, let's look into this further, you know. So I would say probably about 4 years in, and so I kind of went through the NHS route, which is extremely slow. So I'd say that process took around, well, it must have taken a good like six years. Or, you know,
6 years?
Only because, you know, the NHS, you get 3 attempts, and there was a lot of, you know, we're gonna go for a test to see what might be the problem. You know, it takes 3 months to get an appointment for the test. Then it takes 3 months, a month to get the results, and then you book another appointment. Oh, we didn't see anything wrong with that, so we need to book another test. Right, it's going to take you 3. I mean, it was just,
so 1 year could be spent just for some
and I think
basic testing.
Yeah, and I think the reality is that if you are very determined that this is the thing you're going to do, then you could really push and force the situation. But because I just kept thinking, you know, probably, I mean, surely, like every month I'd be like, right, I'm a day late. This is it. Take a test. You know, I still hadn't really fully accepted that, you know. And so I had 3 attempts on the NHS. I think one of them ended in a miscarriage, and then the other 2 didn't end in pregnancies. Even though when we got the embryos, they were like, these are perfect. Oh my gosh, amazing. They're the most beautiful embryos we've ever seen in our lives. You know, so again, I was just confused. Like, gosh, what's going on? And, you know, obviously at this point, I'm also 6-7 years into a career where I'm slogging my guts out, but not being paid what I should be paid, or even having positioned myself in a place where actually I would flourish during that period in my career, because I kept thinking, gosh, surely I'm going to get pregnant any day. So I don't want to move jobs and then get pregnant. Or so I think for me, looking back, the most difficult thing during that period was the feeling of a lack of control for me. So I think it was a psychological piece more so than the actual reality of not being able to get pregnant.
Do you feel that you were in denial?
Clearly I was.
Well, it happens more frequently than we can imagine. And it's not just you're describing a situation that creates a mental state, which I think that generates those emotions automatically, because you're saying that I'm so young. You were how you were like 22, 23 years old?
Just a couple of years older than that, but it wasn't, you know, it's pretty much around that sort of age. Yeah.
Still,
yeah.
you're in your most fertile.
Yes, exactly. And
time,
you know,
so.
they would say when they'd look at my, in fact, for all of that time, and it's part of the new life, you know, when I start talking about the difference in the new life journey is that I actually, because I also had, you know, fibroids, it was only one of my ovaries they were even looking at to get, you know, embryos, and they were just like, yeah, we've got enough from here, it's fine. Like the actual anatomy of the situation appeared to be congruent with this being fine, like no big issue. But the reality still was that it just wasn't even close to happening, you know.
So you went through the NHS. Very, very slow process. Eventually you were funded.
Yes.
Practically for those 3 IVF cycles. You experienced something really difficult. You had a miscarriage.
Yes.
And then you had 2 unsuccessful IVF cycles. So just so that we can get an understanding, because it's important for anyone viewing this to check on any similarities probably with their own experiences. How many embryos were actually created throughout this process, if you remember?
Yeah, no, I don't remember. But all of the ones that were created were used in the so it must have just been 3 then. Yeah.
And if we just go one step back, what was the infertility diagnosis for you as a couple?
Well, they just said it was unexplained. Yeah, which is why I kept thinking, well, you know, there's 1,000,001 stories of I took a test and I was pregnant. So I just was like, that's obviously what's going to happen, you know. So that didn't help me to have closure for, right, this is definitely the route that we're going to need to take.
Do you feel that any delays in the process, apart from the emotional state that you were into, and considering the rest of your life that was happening, I mean, professionally and everything else, because understandably, we know that generally how women are positioning themselves in society today, we try to have multiple, like a multitasking approach on everything. And we try to combine everything in our lives. Do you feel that probably the decision-making around and the acceptance towards the fact that I have an infertility issue and I have to seek help now, was affected by the actual circumstances around your, I don't know, family, community, the people that were around you throughout those years?
So not in a direct way at all, because once I actually started talking about it, they were all like, gosh, what are you waiting for? You know, but generally wasn't talked about at all. I mean, in fact, at all. Was it? No, because it was just something that wasn't talked about. So, you know, I probably felt that there was a stigma to it, but not one that anyone had consciously, you know, applied at all. It was just my assumption because I just saw no one else doing it. Nobody talked about it. It was just, you know, to be honest, if anything, what I would probably get is, you know, you shouldn't be so career driven. Like, you need to think about starting a family very often. So yeah, so I think for me, it's just normalizing conversations, not just about this, but just, you know, like, for instance, money. People don't maybe talk about, you know, how they manage their money or other things. I just think that there's a privacy sometimes in areas, very understandably, that actually, if we could also create some safe spaces to have those conversations, would be really, really powerful for people.
I'm used to experiencing something similar. I would say mostly in Greece, Greek families, Greek communities. We have mothers and dads and fathers requesting for grandchildren. So was this a kind of pressure, let's say, that you felt that came from your family, or was this not the situation you experienced?
I'll be honest, I have been extremely blessed and so they were extremely supportive, extremely caring. I would say that they were amazingly sensitive and gave us room and asked, you know, what support we needed, as opposed to applying any pressure.
So post-diagnosis and confirmation that you needed support, when you started this journey and you had experienced some very difficult situations, what was your emotional status? How did you feel? Yeah,
so I would say it definitely has evolved, because I think, if I'm honest, I think the most difficult part of the process was the months and months probably before I started trying to go for, where I just kept thinking it's going to happen and it didn't happen. Then I think the next thing was when I had the miscarriage. To be honest, that would, I would say, be the pinnacle of it, because I think finally I was like, okay, gosh, amazing. It's worked. you know, and again, I didn't have really any concept or experience of miscarriage around me. I mean, not to say that there weren't women around me who may have had it. It's just that I had no idea that could happen. Once I was like, gosh, finally, this is amazing. And so then when I went for the 12-week pregnancy, you know, the scan, and I was just so excited, amazing. And then they looked at the screen and were really quiet and moved the screen away. And then they said, oh, it's not moving. I said, it was I think it's the confusion of like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? And so that was, you know, when I just, you know, finally said, finally I'm in a place where, you know, I've been here for a while and I won't feel bad if I have to go away. But not that you should feel bad, but, you know, I felt like this is the right time. So what happened, unfortunately, and I think this has really affected my mental state at the time, is that on either side of me, the two of my colleagues got pregnant at the same time as I did, and obviously they were obviously quite vocal about it, because why wouldn't you be? But I just remember the day one of them announced that they were pregnant, and they weren't that happy about being pregnant. Well, I went to the ladies at work and realised that I'd started bleeding. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get home? How long does the miscarriage take? How am I going to get home in time? I'm in central London.
Yeah.
So I rushed. I said, oh, I've just got to go. So I rushed home. And on the train, I remember it just being excruciating, and I was trying to hold it. I was like, I don't know if you can hold it in, but I was just like, please do not happen here. And I got home, and I think within half an hour or something, that's when it happened. And I was just, it was excruciating. I didn't, pain. Yeah. So I think for me, and then obviously when I came back to the office, the wonderful thing for me is that it wasn't something that made me feel bad or anything if I saw other people. If anything, I love being around children. I was around lots of children, looked after lots of children, just as part of, you know, what I did outside of work. So it just brought me joy. What I would say is that after that, the miscarriage though, to see the two who were beside me, who weren't that, who had to come to terms with being pregnant as opposed to wanting it actively, watching them grow in it at the same time, I was like, it was just like a active depiction of what I felt I should have been going through. So that was really hard for me emotionally. And I think again, counselling and things like that wasn't something that I was used to hearing, but I kind of at that point had just assumed that it was for people who, really, really something's massively wrong with me. But I just knew in myself that I know that I'm not okay at the moment. And I know that because of the way that I am, the people around me, even people who are close to me, they won't realise how not okay I am because I'm still highly functional. Yeah, so at that point I went and I had some counselling, and it was revolutionary. And the strangest thing is the first session I went to, she said, okay, well, lovely to meet you. So tell me a bit about why you're here. And then I just was in floods of tears and then she was very calm. She said, thank you so much for sharing with me. From that first session, I don't think we never talked about miscarriage, children. I mean, most of what we would end up talking about was just around what I wanted out of life and how I could start moving towards getting that generally, So, and I think that really opened my eyes to how the extent to which I had made my life about this one thing that I could not control and that I was determined to be able to control, So when I actually went through those sessions, in the end, it was completely life-changing for me. It was like, and if I'm honest, I think that was so needed for me in my life because, as we talk more about the rest of the journey, one theme that runs through it is that, oh my gosh, there's so many things that you can't foresee, you can't control, that life kind of, for me, there has to be so many pockets of joy. You can't build it all on one thing, whether it's fertility, whether it's, marriage, whatever it is, it's, and I think that was a really pivotal moment for me just personally.
So it kind of helps you normalize the emotions you were experiencing.
Yes. And
make you feel a bit better about maybe I'm okay without the baby, the family that I want to build.
Yes. And I think also, there was a statement she made, which was a very quiet, a gentle statement. And she said, because I was sitting, those sessions I think I had at her house, just a really small but beautiful little room that we would have. And obviously by this time I'd spoken about lots of different things like that. And she said to me, the life that you have is a good life, like it's a good life. And it was, sometimes you have a heart connection with someone, and it was almost like she was looking at me and saying, my God, like there's so many things in your life that are amazing. You need to realize that. And, in some ways, when you're at a low point, someone basically saying, effectively, just be grateful for what you've got would be really like, galling. But she somehow said it in a sentence that helped me to see what she meant, because I couldn't see anything good. All I could see was things that I thought weren't what they should be, and actually, gosh, when you zoom out, there's so many things that are beautiful around,
Yeah. Were you the type of human being that expressed their emotion?
No. I express joy, but the emotions I think I had not at that point been comfortable expressing were, oh, I've got a problem, or oh, I'm not happy, or so. What I think as a person, what I feel on the inside is not necessarily what's obvious on the outside if it's negative, So I've learned through the years to express things, especially when it's something that's maybe difficult, express things in a way that to me might feel very over the top, just so that somebody outside of me can see what to them is just quite a normal way of expressing, so.
Yeah. So practically you never actually openly discussed with anyone close to you the infertility journey?
I mean, I did to a degree, but if you think about, that process, process before I kind of started the next element, next kind of tranche of the process it was almost a decade long. So during that time, it wasn't that I didn't discuss it with anybody, but maybe it'd be 5 or 6 discussions over the period versus me thinking about it all day, all night, every day. I mean, it just was, it was like a drop in the ocean, the conversation. And also maybe because I wasn't massively comfortable about speaking about it. It wasn't it wasn't something that people would keep coming to me about. I mean, the interesting thing though is that in the end, what had happened, so after that last embryo didn't work with the NHS, I thought I was, again, I thought I was, I was not happy, but I didn't think there was anything different in the way that I was behaving versus the way that I'd always behaved. But, I was working in a job at the time, and a manager pulled me into the room and said, "Hello, what's going on?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "No, something's wrong." And he said, "You're not coming out of the room until you tell me what it is." I mean, we spend a lot of time together, but we don't have intimate conversations. How has this person realized
that something is off?
Yeah, when actually, and she kept me in that room for 2 hours. And she goes, What do you mean? Like, why didn't you tell me this? Like, how are you trying to do this type of job at the same time as going through that? As if everything's not." And she said, "Okay, right, we're going to do this." She said, "We're going to, for the next 3 months, work is secondary. You need to treat this like it's a project. Like, I'm gonna ring all of my friends and doctors that I know. You're gonna go to all the best clinics in London. If this is something that you actually want, cool." She had 4 children, and she said, "Oh, I had all 4 children through IVF." I said, "Why?" She goes, "Because I just wanted to make sure that she just wanted to make sure she had all of her ducks in a row and that everything was okay before she had her." It's not that she had any infertility issue. And she said, no, this is just not, she actually normalized it for me and was so practical about, she's like, "But at work, you are so methodical, I can trust you then. But this is the most important area of your life to you. And you're treating it like you don't know how to do it." She said, "No, we're not doing that." And, so the next month or so, that's when I did my little roadshow around the UK and England. And she, after every session, she'd be like, "Oh, how did it go? Tell me what's happening." I mean, now that I look back on it, or, post looking, I was like, this it's astounding in some ways, you know. And you know, when subsequently when I spoke to like people, they're like, I just thought you didn't want to talk about it, or that it wasn't something that was critical. We could have talked to you about, you know, that kind of stuff. So we could have pushed you, but just didn't. She just didn't care, though. She wasn't thinking about, okay, you know, emotionally how. She was just like, this is a problem. We know how to fix problems. Let's fix the problem. It's not insurmountable, you know.
But this pushed you. That's the thing. That this triggered you and pushed you towards the direction that you needed to get yourself.
And it somehow just broke this emotional thing in me that was like, oh my gosh, this is such a big deal. Like, she was like, it's not really. It's just people have different issues, and you just look at the issue, you deal with the issue. Like, that's it. It's nothing more than that, you know. And that's what I needed.
I think that was a pivot moment.
100%. Yeah. I'm a person of faith, and I'm just like, Lord, you knew what I needed at the time that I needed it. And that is not, you know, if I was going to construct how things would pan out or what would be the trick, I could never have created that situation myself, you know. But it was exactly what I needed.
So at that point, you started looking privately.
Yes.
For, having consultations with fertility clinics in the UK. What did you experience?
I would say that, you know, my previous experience in the UK had felt quite inhumane, I would say. I mean, not in any overt way. It just felt very clinical. I said, I think I should say inhumane. It was clinical. And I think when I started looking privately, I very much felt that it wasn't just clinical, but it was. I mean, I felt like I was dealing. It felt very much like I was dealing with business. It didn't feel like there was any. I remember going to one, for instance, which is massively well regarded in terms of their success rates in the UK. I mean, I literally remember sitting opposite the clinician, and he was like, "Some people don't like it here because it's like a boot camp, but you either take it or leave it. We will tell you when you need to come." At the time you need to come, and if you don't like it, then we don't need to take you. And I was just
are you kidding me?
No. It was.
And that happened during your first appointment with the clinic?
Yes. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to have another appointment with the clinic after that. But I just was like, okay. And it was wonderful to have that that manager that I described to bounce things off of, because what she said to me is like, you know, in life, when you go for a service, any service, like, there is going to be something within your price range at the quality level that you require. You just need to keep going until you find it, you know. And again, it was just very matter of fact. And so otherwise, I think I might have just swallowed the bullet and said, look, I hate how I'm being treated, but I've always been treated. I mean, this is the business that we're in here, you know. So you just have to accept that you're going to have to pay a ridiculous amount. And, you know, they've said that, you know, they've got some of the highest rates. So if you need to do this, then just figure it out and do it. But that just that helped me to realize, well, actually, you don't have to accept that, you know. And I think I went to a road show, or maybe a fertility show or something. And I met someone there who had a clinic in Greece. And so it wasn't this clinic, but I remember saying, right, okay, I've seen all the ones in the UK. Let me go to a few abroad, maybe, and then, you know, then I'll make a decision. And
sorry to interrupt. So this is when the international door, opened for you.
Yes, yeah. So it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I really want to go. It was just, if I'm just treating this as it's a project like any other project, you wouldn't just look in one location. You just look at alternatives. So it you know, and when I had spoken to them at the fair, they also just seemed more human, you know, again. And so I thought, yeah, let me just see what that's like. And I booked a Ryanair flight, and it was like, I came in the morning and the flight was in the evening. And I remember going and thinking, it was just wonderful. This feels so different. It's clean, and it's not like you know, sometimes when I'd been in there's like hundreds of people in it. You know, you're going down this corridor into some basement. You don't have to pay thousands upon thousands, but the actual conditions are just, they didn't feel great. Whereas I came and it was kind of very light and airy, and just felt like they respected the fact that this was an important place to be for people. I was like, this is brilliant. This is this feels so much better than anywhere else. And also, it didn't feel like the primary thing that they were thinking about was the money. So I thought, yeah, great. But then I had a flight, you know, I had time to kill and I didn't know Greece. So, and I realized the opposite was another clinic. And I thought, oh, we've got a bit of time. I'm sure that they won't be able to see me, but why not just go into it? And I remember I walked in and I can't remember who I saw at the front desk, but they were just like, yeah, we do have space. Yeah, we'll speak to you. And I thought, that's amazing. That definitely wouldn't happen. Like, you have to book weeks in advance in the UK. And so we met Dr. Dovas and Carissa that day, and it was, I mean, that session, and they didn't even charge for the consultation, whereas it's hundreds of pounds in the UK. That session, I remember Dr. Dovas bringing out a model of a uterus.
Yeah.
And he said, no, we're going to give you a scan. Actually, first of all, he asked, like, what do you think? I said, gosh, I've never been asked this before. And so, I mean, I don't even know how I answered that question. But the whole way that session went, it was genuinely like someone who cared, two people who cared, just talking to two people who they thought they might be able to help. And it was very clear from the outset that, you know, you don't have to, I mean, we're not even expecting you to come with us, because obviously you came to be at the other clinic, but if there's anything that we can talk about that might be useful to you, or even if like we can connect you with centres in the UK where you can get bloods at a better rate whilst you do your IVF with them, yeah, we'd be more than happy to help. So already it was completely different. It didn't just feel completely, it was, that's very different. And then, I mean, had a scan, and Dr. Dovas said, so can you see the uterus that you see on the scan, and you can see the one that's a normal uterus? They were completely different. They just weren't the same shape. They were just, I was like, those two things that look like the same thing. Goes, yeah. I said, how have I been through this process for 10 years? How have I paid hundreds of pounds for several scans on top of the consultation fee? And never, I mean, I didn't even know this. I mean, they had said, oh, you know, you've got to fire it, but it was always something that was very like, oh, just not a big deal. We'll just, you know, this is what it's going to cost for IVF. If you want to start, let me know when. So whereas Dr. Rose and Chris said, look, if I'm honest with you, given your history, I think the best thing to do is to remove the fibroid, even though, you know, there's no guarantee that that's something that's creating an issue. Remove it and then wait for some time till it heals, and then go for it. And obviously, they weren't going to be part of the process from all they knew, but they were like, that's what we would recommend. And so, to cut a long story short, and I think the other thing that they said that was really just impactful for me was that in the end, here they have the time to care. In the end, there's no guarantees wherever you are, but I could see the success rates, and I was like, this is comparable to those extremely expensive, you know, places where I hadn't felt that human connection. So yeah, so I decided, you know what? Well, actually, why don't we come back and do the procedure, make sure that the fibroid's gone, and then go from there.
2 small points for confirmation. You traveled on your own, or
no?
You were with your partner together. So you had one planned and scheduled appointment, and one more, which was happened just like that.
Just happened.
When did you decide that you would like you were like, yes, this is the clinic I'm going to use?
I mean, I think that it was probably within, you know, pretty much when they showed the picture of the scan, you know, the scan and the model. Because I thought it was so clear that, okay, there is obviously something that isn't. And the way that they declared it so clear, and also the fact that clearly they just cared about us as people. That's it. I mean, there wasn't anything in it for them at that. And they were giving us something. I mean, it would have cost us at least £500 in the UK. The guarantee of, oh, these are the best rates and this is the best treatment is not something that is a fundamental thing that would sway me. It's just more that, well, I'm going to have to go through this process. I'd like to go through it somewhere where I can feel okay, you know.
And did you spot, or can you share any specific traits that made you opt for in your life instead of the other appointment that you had?
It was so caring, and also it was so clear that you knew what you were doing, because just the insights that they were able to give me in this impromptu that many clinicians hadn't identified prior.
Practically, it was the first time you're giving an answer about why.
Yes, and I must admit, I mean, they didn't say it was an answer necessarily, but it was clearly something that was very critical and relevant. I wasn't looking for any guarantees because I don't think anyone can or should give guarantees in this area. It was just more, I wanted to be treated as a human being and feel like, you know, this just happens to be something that I'm dealing with, but working with people who are competent and caring is kind of the arena that I wanted to do that in.
So you took your flight and left back home?
Yeah, and I must say, what I hadn't quite grasped is that whole thing was like pretty much all in a day's work, right? Like I left the house, went to an airport that's only about an hour away from me. The flight's not too prohibitive, about 3 hours, I think. And then I think I got the flight back around about 4:30. So I thought, I mean, that was actually quite an efficient process in itself, but I don't think it had registered to me fully at that point. It's only as we actually started doing the treatment I realized how different the actual practical experience felt versus previous experiences I've had.
Which is amazing because your previous experiences were back home locally,
So
next to you.
Exactly that. So when I actually had my treatment here, I remember it just being very you know, so first of all, I had the fibroids taken out. And I remember getting to the hospital about 7:30 or something like that. And then being welcomed by the person who was going to do the surgery. The person who was doing the surgery was then standing next to the person who was going to do an embryo transfer later. So they were observing how the surgery went so that they would know whatever they needed to do or to be aware of for when they did the embryo transfer later, which I thought was unbelievable. And then I remember getting a video of the procedure afterwards, outlining what had happened, and just so that in case I wanted to go and do any treatment anywhere else, they wouldn't have a really clear understanding of what had happened previously. I was actually so shocked at how operationally efficient it was. Being someone who's obviously, I don't work in this field, but I know how difficult it is when you're working with multiple organizations to streamline things, even when you're in one of it. So I was just observing, even from that perspective, how effective the connection points were. And then, further on, there would be times where I'd maybe have to go for blood tests and scans in the UK in preparation for coming out to and again, I think if you remember, I said this, sometimes I wouldn't want to go for new roles. I think, oh gosh, if I'm going to go through this process, it's going to be quite disruptive. I don't want to be maybe in a new role when I'm doing that. But in practice, the process, the practicalities for me personally were so smooth. It felt easier than booking a GP appointment in the UK because, for instance, I would, I'd be told, right, you need to have a scan on this date. I would, on the way to the office, go and get the scan done. By the time I was at my desk, the scan results would have been sent to New Life, and I'd have a letter stating what the next parts of the process were. I just thought, how is this? It's shocking that it's possible to do it this way, because it's not. I don't think it's easy to do that. But it consistently, all the times that I've been, that's what it's been like. So that just makes a massive difference in terms of headspace and stress and worry. Like, you can actually get on with normal life very easily, whilst also knowing that this side is just going to be taken care of very competently.
So nothing was actually disrupted.
No.
And you felt that it was stress-free.
Yes,
let's
very,
say,
very
as
much.
much as it can be, of course.
But I think that the point was that it was stress-free. Like, for me anyway. I mean, I think everybody's different, but having to figure out all of the logistics and often when I was doing it in the UK, I'd have to wait for quite a long time when I'd have an appointment, but then still have to wait for several hours.
So if we place this chronologically, at what point, which year was it that you traveled? And
gosh,
it
would have probably been
2019, I think so myself too. Somewhere there. So you visited Greece. You came at New Life. You had your first IVF stimulation cycle practically, correct? And you created embryos. And after that, you had your surgery.
Yes.
This is the timeline.
Yes, you're right.
Followed.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And then what followed next? When did the moment come for the actual embryo transfer?
It took about 6 or 7 months, and I just started a new job at that time. So it was good that for me, it felt like it felt good that I had some time to wait before I, started the process. And also, I mean, I wasn't, not that I assumed that it would work the first time, but yeah, it gave me a bit of space to just do life a little bit before the transfer. And then, so I came back again for the transfer. And again, it was, I wanted to try to make it as non-disruptive as possible. So in the end, I just came on a Friday, I think. So I only had to take 1 day off work. And then it it wasn't a big fanfare. And I think I needed that because at that point, I think I'd very much taken the journey to be one where this is just going to be a part of life. So rather than focusing so much attention on it and it being this pinnacle and something so critical, it's just like, it's just going to be one of the things I do, blah, blah, blah. Okay, on Friday we're going over to Greece, no problem. Saturday I'll be back Monday. It was very, my headspace is not there because I needed to allow it to just be part of my life as opposed to my entire life,
Yes. Walk us through the next step. So you had the embryo transfer?
Yes, and then I went back to the office. Interestingly, I had another boss, a different boss, who at the same, pretty much at the same time that I was having my transfer, his wife was having her transfer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And he was very, very open about it. I mean, he was like blow by blow. Whereas I was, and I think maybe one time when he started talking about it, I just like always kind of like, don't worry, I'm fine about it, I'm fine. And he was really like, the problem's not with her, it's me. And I thought, gosh, I can't believe how open and how. He goes, and I go, oh,
it may be liberating at times.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, he did it. I mean, it was just good to see the normalization of, not weird human beings. It's just everybody's different. Everyone's got a different thing that they're dealing with. So when finally I got the test back, and it was, first of all, I was just like, oh my God, like this is unbelievable. Okay, this is good. But I was also a bit cautious because I knew now that, you can get pregnant and then not be pregnant if you want. But I remember when I told him, he was like, what? And then he gave me this big hug. And I thought, this is unbelievable, given that I'm basically also telling you that I'm not going to be here in a few months and I only just started.
But he was going through the same thing. Yeah. And of course, he was a good human. Yeah. And he, of course, was happy for you. Yeah. How did it feel that it was your first try?
Yeah, I mean, it felt great, but also I guess I probably would say that I dissociated my emotions to a degree from the process. So it wasn't, had this been several years before and it was like, gosh, I was still in the mode that this is my whole life. Like then I would have been like ecstatic because it would have meant, oh my gosh, everything that I've ever dreamed of is about to happen. Whereas at this point I was very much like, okay, it's good. This is the next step. And the next step is going in the right direction, and this is a good thing. But you need to wait and see. So it was definitely very positive, but it was also very. I think I was also quite measured about it.
You wanted to safeguard your emotions.
Yes. And if I'm honest, I think that during that pregnancy, it probably wasn't until a few weeks before I was gonna have the baby that I was like, okay, this is actually really gonna happen, and this is amazing, So we had a lovely photo shoot, had a wonderful baby shower, which was just, was like a dream fairy tale. It was amazing. And I think that really made me realize how much I shut my emotions off and how much, my family and friends really loved me, because it was like, for them, they were seeing, my gosh, the journey. And this is it. This is amazing. Like, whereas I was very much like, I'm not going to think about it. Like, because who knows, like, I'm not going to. And so that was really a moment for me where I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually it. Amazing.
Do you feel that you may have been scared?
Oh, absolutely. But it wasn't a overt emotion. It was just in the switching of my emotions that I can identify that I must have been very scared. Yeah.
So the moment arrived, you had your first baby, your first child.
Yes. Yeah. And so that was amazing. I mean, in the end, I ended up having an emergency C-section. So that was, that was all of, you know, dramatic, I guess. It was dramatic, but it was also amazing to have, you know, to finally have my baby here.
Was the experience of delivery as dramatic as you're describing, or the reason behind the decision making about the C-section?
Yeah. So what was? So I think I'd been in. So my waters broke the day that I was due to have the baby, and I was like, wonderful. This is just like
great timing.
Everything is streamlined and efficient. But then nothing like so, and you know, went for lots of walks around the park, frog marching. But 24 hours later, baby still wasn't here. So I think they told me that I needed to go in after 24 hours. If that hadn't happened, and then I think as they were monitoring, they were realizing that because I was having contractions, it just wasn't dilating, and they weren't close enough. The, you know, they say 2 minutes or something when you go to the hospital. So, but then thank God again I went to the hospital, because then when they were monitoring, they were like, oh my gosh, the heart rate is going down really low. When and then there was a point at which it just stopped, and so they had to they call it a head scratch, which was excruciating. You know, they needed to try and stimulate the baby to get, you know, to for their heart to start beating. So that's when they were like, no, we just need to. The contractions are a bit too strong for me now. So they did the emergency C-section. And I remember one part that I really loved was that in the theatre, as she was coming out, they put the Lion King, you know, the Lion King song where Simba's got, and they literally brought her up just as it got to the crescendo. And I was like, oh my God, I love this. They put Afrobeats on at first, and then as they were pulling her out, they put the Lion King song on. I was like, this is actually hilarious.
Oh God, yeah, it's a funny moment.
It was.
I've had a C-section. I didn't have any music around, so that makes me feel not so happy.
Oh, and yeah, so that was so that was.
So everything turned out.
Yeah, so as far as the went, and then I just think obviously the recovery period after C-section is not as easy, but you know what I mean. I guess at that point was very much like, the main thing is, wow, she's here, you know.
Yeah. So moments of pure happiness. Yes. And practically the delivery happened at which year was it?
That was 2019.
And after that?
Yeah, so it was, you know, it was amazing in many, many, many ways. But also the practicality, like, if I'm honest, for all of those years, the main thing that I was focused on was just to have a baby. Do you see what I mean? I hadn't actually thought much beyond that. So I think the actual practicalities of having, you know, I'm just very used to being very competent in every area, and then I realized, oh my gosh, this is, I feel like I'm out of my depth. But yeah, so there was a, you know, there was a learning process, and it was my mum. She was amazing through the process. She was around. Yeah, she was amazing through the process, and obviously husband's amazing. Like if I'm honest, he's better with our kids than I think he was just a natural from the beginning.
That's fantastic. We need that.
But she didn't breastfeed very well, though, I must say. So I would be like spending hours milking myself like a cow. Like the main noise in the house was like the breast pump, like on day and night. So it was brilliant to have the opportunity to be home together.
And did you stay at home for a long time after?
I think I had 9 months.
9 months.
Yeah, so that was it was a good amount of time.
9 precious months, close to your baby. Of course, after that, more came as the time passed, because you wanted to grow your family. Yes. So, if you would like to share a bit more about what followed and what led us to today.
Yeah. So what happened? So, in the end, again, because I was like, okay, this is. I'm going to treat it a bit like a project to the extent that I can. I know that everything's really out of my hands and in God's hands ultimately, but at least go through the steps to try to, you know, do what you can do. So about a year after, then we came and had second transfer. That amazingly also was positive, and so then I had another little one. About 18 months. 18 months later, which was amazing. And honestly, from the day that I brought home, they've been like best friends, which I was actually really worried about because I just thought, oh gosh, how's the first one going to react? And then again, probably about a couple of years after that, I tried again and again. Amazingly, it worked. That time, I mean, I think around about just after 12 weeks, I did have a bleed, but we had a few more scans and everything was fine. And then went for my second scan, 20 weeks, and again I had that. It was the same. By that time, I think I was assuming that everything was going to be fine. But again, once they started scanning, there was a silence, and I said, "Oh no." I know that silence. And then then they said, "Oh, I'm really sorry that it's not the heart's not beating." And so I was just like, gutted again. But it was very different though from the first time. I think it didn't take me to the depths of I didn't get depressed with it or anything like that. No. Although this time, because of how far along I was, it had to be I had to be induced. So it was like it was like giving birth in that sense, And I think that was difficult when I was in the hospital on the labour ward, hearing people screaming on either side, and then baby cries, knowing that by the time my one comes up, it's actually I just realised that's actually the only vaginal birth that I've had, because others have been C-sections. But so that was obviously extremely difficult. But I genuinely think that the grace that I've had is that I think now I just realise that life is full of different things, isn't it? It's unfortunately during that period I lost my mum as well. That was actually as I had my second, my mum was getting sicker and sicker, and then she passed away.
So sorry.
Thank you so much. So there's been lots of things running alongside that are not what you would want or what you would wish. So actually, as during the journey, all of us grow. Over the years we all grow. So I think that's one of the growth pieces that I've had, at realizing that you're always going to have the good in life as well as the things that aren't so good. So just really try and relish as much of the good as you can.
It does take a lot of strength.
It does. But then I also think that part of this journey has been me realizing that, in life there are lots of things that take a lot of strength. For me, it's been fertility, and one of so the fertility and mum passing away at the time that I was pretty much just having the first and the second, and other things similarly that have happened. But then other people experience really difficult things as well, and just trying to build the things around me in life that support the moments of joy. Realizing that there are some things that you're not going to be able to control that won't be joyful, but thankfully they're only part of life and they're not all of life.
Do you feel that the fact that you had your two children and your husband, that created a mental state and a view in life that helped you deal with the situation of losing your mother and then having to practically have a delivery of a baby that
I think that
stopped development?
I mean, I think it did, definitely, because like I said, one of the things that counsellor has said all those years earlier is that she was looking at the entirety of my life and not just this one thing that I was focusing on, and saying that you have a good life, like there's a lot. And I think because they are part of the good in my life, they're always part of what I can look at and say, gosh, this is a blessing, so this part is really, really not okay. But thankfully that's not all of the parts. I think what I would say though is that I definitely don't think anymore, gosh, the most important part of life for all human beings is having a husband and kids, because I think many people have amazingly beautiful lives without those things. So I think and which for me feels a lot healthier than before, because previously that was to me the pinnacle of life. Like if that's not working perfectly, then that's it. It doesn't matter what else is going on. Whereas I think for me it feels a lot healthier to realize that all aspects of your lives at different parts of at different times, sometimes these parts are going well, sometimes maybe other parts are going well, but it's finding a way to find joy in the moment, I think.
Which was, in your opinion, the weakest moment of your journey? The most difficult one.
The most difficult. I mean, I definitely think it was when I had that first miscarriage, because that was still at a point where I was like, this is the moment I've been waiting for in life. Like this is, I'm going to have the child I've always dreamed of. Finally, it's here, and then that coming crashing down in a way that felt to me very cruel. That was difficult, that was difficult. And I think at that point I didn't have the emotional wisdom or the tools to support me to think that through. Whereas post that, I've learned how to speak about what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. I've got amazing family and friends who I really make sure that I speak to about what's really going on, no matter what it might look like on the outside. So I was equipped with a whole different set of tools by the time, that came round. And my faith has been extremely important throughout.
You experienced, most of your journey was, your successful journey was with IVF abroad. Did you at any point experience any challenging moments throughout the process? Or because you outlined before in the beginning of our discussion and throughout it that everything felt almost stress-free, like it felt easier than doing it at home.
Yeah.
But did you feel at any certain points that there were some obstacles or challenges?
For me, my personal experience has been that it's been really easy. Like the process has just been it's just been very easy. I think for me, the experience I personally have had is just that New Life has been very competent at the things that you do. So I haven't experienced anything, even down to just things like, what should I do? What should I do? Like, where can I get my nails done? It's just been very, very supportive.
We're very happy to hear that. We know that it's financial battle. For anyone listening this podcast, like feeling connected on some extent with your personal story. How did you experience this financially, the entire process? Because it's an investment.
It is.
And it's out of pocket.
Yes.
Of course, understandably, because you explained this, treatment in Greece was for you a lot cheaper than considering doing it in the UK, even considering the travel expenses and everything else?
Yes, it was. Yeah. It was definitely compared to the sorts of clinics that, that I was looking at in central London. And I think initially I had a mental barrier for many years. I just thought, why, people can get pregnant by accident. Like, I'm not going to pay, why should I have to pay thousands of pounds to, for it potentially not to work? But I think once I'd got, once I'd had that conversation, that was where it was just like, what? People need to spend their money on different things. You just have to decide what's important to you and then find somewhere that you're happy and comfortable to spend that money and that works within something that you can stretch to, recognizing that it may not work straight away. Once I'd made peace with that, then actually it was fine. It was just like, it was yes, it's definitely not insignificant, the sum, but it's also something that I've chosen to prioritize, and therefore, I prioritize it above certain things that maybe I would spend money on alternatively. And for me, it's definitely been a blessing, and the reality is that when you have children, there is a financial weight once they're here. Like forget the IVF, and so it's almost as though, well, actually, that just happens to be part of the cost of, that is just something that I have to accommodate.
Is this an option that you would highly recommend to someone considering IVF, like doing IVF abroad? Yes,
definitely, because I think my experience of healthcare in Greece, my personal experience, because remember, it's not just the IVF I've had, I also had the removal of...
the surgery.
Yeah, the surgery, and that was at a separate hospital. So my experience of it has been extremely different than all of the experiences I've had in the UK. And it just, going back to, well, forget the money element, just how do you feel as a human being having to have what are really intimate procedures done? And I'm just like, I would always choose to be somewhere where I'm comfortable. And the reality is the relative cost of being extremely comfortable in the UK is just, there's just no comparison. So my experience has been that they're definitely, I haven't compromised quality. If anything, I think I've definitely increased the quality and the price is better.
Do you feel that everything you've been through changed your perspective in life, switched things completely?
Definitely. I kind of felt for many years that, if you try and do the right thing, then things will just, turn out in a very lovely way, whereas I think life has taught me that, there's always going to be things in life that are not easy or that are difficult and that you might need to do in a different way than than other people, but it's okay. You know, it's okay. And there are so many aspects of life that are beautiful and that you can have more of an influence on. And those that you can't, that's going to be okay too.
What's your advice for anyone struggling with infertility at the moment?
I would just say, firstly, that it is such a normal struggle. Like, it's, whether it's your first child or it's your third child, so many of us struggle to the point where actually, when I have told people in the end about miscarriage, they're like, oh yeah, I had one last week. Oh yeah, I've had 4 miscarriages. You know, it's actually so common. So finding your community and people you trust, you can speak to, so that you have the support that you need, and you realize actually how normal it is. And then the second part is just continuing to build that fullness in your life, which you're going to need for if and when you have children, and you're going to need if you don't have children. You know, recognizing that it's just one part of your life. And then I think the final thing is finding a clinic and people that will that you feel good with, because in this process, no matter where you go, there's never 100% guarantee. So the most important part of it, I think, is that this is a part of my life that I can look back on and think, gosh, I actually enjoyed being with the people that I was with.
If you would describe this with 1 or 2 words, why would someone select New Life?
I would say they're caring and they're extremely competent.
How do you see yourself in a few years from today?
I think potentially with another child.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. I also think, you know, just with a lot of joy and a lot of laughter and a lot of fun around me, focusing on, just creating those moments of joy in life and achieving some of the goals that I have for both myself and for the family and close friends, etc. So I feel like there's a lot to be excited about the future, of which potentially another child is one, but I wouldn't say that's the primary thing that's going to bring me the joy.
Will you be discussing this in the future? I mean, when they grow up with your children, that you went through IVF?
Yeah, why not? Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's relevant. I think the best part of it is that I've got pictures from before they were, I've got pictures from the moment they were conceived. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, can you imagine on the wedding day, let's just go through the pictures of when she was young, and then you're like, bang, that embryo.
A little embryo. A beautiful embryo.
Yes, I love it.
It's amazing, isn't it?
That is amazing. It's amazing.
And just thinking about the progress in the IVF world and things that may have popped up at that time with AI and everything.
Oh my gosh.
It may be amazing just to see the very beginning of that.
That is so true.
That life.
That is
beautiful.
Yeah, time lapse.
Yeah, time lapse. Correct.
From conception.
I think that it was extremely revealing and you helped us learn. And this was an amazing opportunity for us to get to share the world, your own story, your perspective, and generally how you view things in life. So thank you.
Thank you
for giving us this beautiful moment today. And we will be again here for another episode still. So stay tuned. So that was it. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Gosh, the sound feels not good enough now.
Yes.
It's like, can I live with these?